can we reduce energy costs as we add electric load between computers and data centers and all the electricity needs that we have, plus electrify our heating system and transportation systems, plus add local energy resources to maintain power during extreme weather events, which are becoming more and more often. I'd like to introduce Maria Fields, who has 15 years experience in advanced building technology and the grid transition as she leads Sprocket Power's strategy, business development, and partnerships with Sprocket Power's infrastructure as a service offerings. Maria.
Hi, thanks everybody. So here's my clicker. So Maria Fields, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sprocket Power. We are a Westchester-based company. We work in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and in California. And what we do is we build clean energy systems to support primarily electrification and especially in transportation electrification. And that is it's a big deal. It's a topic of conversation, even in kind of mainstream conversation. You can hear discussions of we need to slow down, the grid can't handle it, we don't have enough power to do what we need to do. And I'm here to say that it is a challenge, but there are solutions available, and we'll talk about a case study here that is an example of that. So the nature of adding electric vehicle charging to a commercial building is that, that they are designed to pull energy, and a DC fast charger is going to pull energy quickly. And that is a big deal for the grid. Con Ed has to back that up, and it is a challenge. And so I was on a panel recently with someone from Con Ed who remarked that a commercial building that puts in a substantial amount of EV charging looks to the grid more like a small hospital or an apartment building. And, and that's a big deal. So you're talking about taking a building with maybe a typical Westchester commercial building, maybe 50, 100 kilowatts of peak demand, and you're adding 100 or 200 kilowatts of EV charging alone. And those are what we call in the business a spiky load, so they're quite painful. And as I often say, the pain is felt on both sides of the meter. Con Ed has to meet this load, but Con Ed also, I'm sure everyone in this building has become more familiar with demand charges over the past few years. Demand is expensive. Con Ed charges for demand about $35 or $40 a kilowatt month. And so you're talking about adding, $3,500, $7,000 of increased demand charges to a utility bill just to run this charger. And P.S., you only have to run it a little bit to feel that. So, and one of the things about demand is really, that's the way that Con Ed or that portion of the bill is how Con Ed pays for its infrastructure, its upkeep of the infrastructure and build out. And so, and demand has been going up. Demand used to be about a third of a bill. It's now more like 60% of a bill. And so, that's a big deal. And for the sites that are putting this charging in, it's a big deal. And so one of the things I would say is it doesn't have to be this way. There are technical solutions that are available now that can create a better outcome for everyone. And that's really what this project does. It takes the kind of, and just to go back, I would say 50, 20, 10 years ago, Con Ed would have met that increased demand by building up kind of hard infrastructure assets. The transmission, distribution, generation would have gone on to the grid, and that's something we all pay for, as I pointed out. And so that, to meet this extra demand through that mechanism would be a lost opportunity and expensive for all of us. And so what this project does is it really creates a system that relieves grid stress and actually supports the local grid. And one of the interesting things about a project that's out in what I'd call the edge of the grid is that it creates systemic benefits throughout. If you're building, the grid is a bit like a seesaw. If you're building something in the middle, it's got to be fairly large. If you're building something, out at the edge, it can be smaller and create tremendous value. So this project generates solar energy. It stores that energy in a battery, and that battery becomes the primary resource for the EV charging. The battery can also shift the solar energy to peak times and provide capacity to the grid. It can feed back into the grid and support demand response programs. So the battery is really the key tool here. And I would also point out a project like this, it's really the cloud-based optimization and management of all the resources behind the grid, behind the meter, that create the value. And in the wisdom of New York energy policy, a project like this is compensated really for its performance. So some of the economic value you see that comes from a project like this, which has a nice payback of under 5 years, which is very attractive. A lot of that comes from capital offsets that we're all used to. You put in something and you get a little bit of capital back from NYSERDA or Con Ed. But a substantial part of the value comes from operating a system like this within the grid. And that's really what's novel about this. So you're looking at what would have been a demand profile for this site of 80 kilowatts. They were using 80 kilowatts. Con Ed only saw 20 kilowatts. So that demand reduction is a key part of the economic value that a project like this brings. It's dropping their utility bill down. It's also exporting into the grid at times that the grid is under stress and getting paid through VEDR credits, demand response programs, things like that. And also, producing a nice greenhouse gas reduction benefit for the local, for Bedford 2030, who's kind of the local sustainability group. So, this project, when you're looking at it, it's now their utility bill is lower than it was before they put in EV charging. It's going to be 84% below what it would be with the EV charging. And we're seeing that, play out. This project has about 6 months of performance now. And, so that's a deeply valuable project. It reduces the host site's energy bill and holds that. It makes it more predictable. We've all seen these kind of spiky energy bills lately. So, so it is a very valuable project, but it's somewhat rare still. And the reason is that it's complex. And really the key value is in integrating available technology into this system that modulates according to the grid economics. A fun project that was done on this site was through CERNI Purchase. A couple of students designed this wrap on the battery. And, so in a way, this actually came out of the planning process at the town of Bedford, that they wanted the project up front and they wanted it to be, something that was kind of demonstrated and engage people in sort of performance. And so this part of the battery says, I make clean charges. And this QR code now connects to some educational information about the battery. It will also connect to this performance platform that'll be part of the website for Sprocket Power and also for the host there. So a few takeaways from this. It's, again, it's you can't set it and forget it. You can't stick this stuff in, plug it in, and expect something good to happen. It's really about connecting the system and having an oversight that is aware of the grid economics, aware of the performance of the building, and can begin to learn and modulate to create this value. One note is a project like this can be financed through a performance contract. It is complex. We can take that complexity on and finance this through performance. So again, the key lies in integration, measurement, and control. One of the interesting things for the Business Council of Westchester is that we work very closely with electrical contractors, with design professionals, many of them BCW members, to install these. These are a big deal and nice work for people. And just on a final note, I know permitting is a challenge, and I think there's been a lot of more education to do. Just on a hopeful note, I would say that we actually just had the fire inspector for the town of Bedford to come out again and kind of look at this site. When we had this permitted about a year ago, it was really our initiative to kind of reach out to the fire department and educate them about what the project was. And so I think that the state has now undergone a really smart process to help educate towns and jurisdictions. We're now permitting 7 batteries in New York. And, you know, having that educational platform and kind of a best practices has been invaluable. And I would also say that these local fire departments I'm now on a couple of these committees, and they're very, you know, professional, they're very up to date now. So this fire inspector that had come out a few weeks ago, he's done a lot of this. He really understands what he's looking for. So that is, you know, it's a good step and a hopeful thing for the future. And I would also say that it's the nature of technology to continue to improve. The battery that you see here, we're putting in a location out in Long Island. It's about half the size, and all of these batteries have now moved to a lithium iron phosphate chemistry, and so they're not, you know, it's a safer chemistry, and that it's generally kind of predominating in the industry. So, you know, we're happy to be kind of treading new ground here and paving the way. Projects like this should be kind of everywhere in Westchester. This is the kind of commercial building stock that we have really everywhere. And so it's a very beneficial project to both the owner and to the grid. So thank you.